Okay, let's get started. Welcome again for the session two, where we'll talk about IoT a bit more in details. So, as usual, I'll share my screen and then take it from there. Okay, so we are in session two of our online course, Applied Physics in IoT, Sensors and Communications. So, in this session, our title is Internet of Things and Their Usage. It's a driver for billions of users. As we know, today we have billions of people who are using the mobile phones and other technology. There'll be several orders of magnitude higher devices and Internet of Things that will be connected to the network, and that means there is several billions of, if not trillions, of sensors that are needed. So if you're looking to get into the space to make an impact, you cannot go wrong with selecting this field. Okay, so we'll take a look at that. So what are our topics? We'll take a look at IoT overview, Internet of Things. What is it and how is it used today? And why do we need IoT, right? What are some of the use cases? You all know probably about voice assistants at home, Alexa, okay, Google, they're all examples of Internet of Things at home, right? You speak into things like an Alexa, and then it does go to the internet and get the information for you, or play a music or whatever it is doing it at home. They're all examples of consumer Internet of Things. And industrial automation, smart cities, emergency response, police, ambulance, fire service, those are all examples of industrial IoT. So we'll take a look at those use cases and what can we do as scientists, undergrad or postgraduate students in physics. What can you do in IoT? What kind of science projects that you can do? And like I mentioned, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of projects that are possible if you put your mind to it and time. A lot of them are simple, easy to do things at your home, and you can also do certain things in our college. So I'll cover some of the potential opportunities for institutions, especially for our institution. We have recently opened up an IoT initiative, IoT lab. So what are the things that one can potentially do that? Okay, so that's what we will talk about. So mainly about IoT, what, why, how, and what you can do type of questions is what we will try to answer in this session. Okay, so what's the book definition of IoT? Is any device that is connected to the internet directly or indirectly. So things that are directly connected, as you can see, it's a very large set of devices, including your computer, your mobile phone. Sometimes your TV may be connected to the internet. You may be streaming videos from YouTube. So any device that is connected to the internet comes under this umbrella. Some of them are directly connected, some of them are not directly connected because they don't have the capability to directly connect it to the internet. They go through a gateway, so basically it talks to something local, let's say like a router in your home. For example, you may have an internet router or a Wi-Fi router at home. A typical example is, you may have a camera, a Wi-Fi enabled camera that may not have connectivity to the internet, but it can talk to a router over Wi-Fi, and the router can get that video data out to the net, out to the internet. So that's what we mean by indirectly. So anything that has connectivity to the internet, directly or indirectly, comes under the IoT umbrella. But typically, in the industry today, we consider IoT as small devices, like sensors, cameras, things like that, or examples of IoT devices that sense something, some characteristics around the environment, right? We talked about temperature, pressure, humidity, air quality, any of those things, or including pictures and videos and so on. Anything that senses something and reports it, right? Even there are sensors available for carbon monoxide gas, or gas sensors. So anything that sends something and then report it to to somebody right on the internet is also comes under the IoT overview. There are several other devices as well, like security cameras we talked about. Home automation devices also come under this category of IoT. So broadly, we classify IoT into two markets: consumer or home IoT. So these are things like you want to turn on, turn off lights from your bedroom, or you want to turn off all the lights in your home, and you want to control appliances, right? Let's say you wake up in the morning, you want to turn on your coffee machine, or you want to turn on your geyser for your water heater for taking bath. So things like that are consumer oriented applications. So plenty of examples there. Many of these modern apartments and homes that people are building, builders are considering more and more homes that are connected. That is, I mean, just like how, about 10 years ago, most of the people who build the houses, they were making sure that there is cable connection, there is electricity, there is gas. So they were taking care of the basic needs of living there. But more and more modern homes, they are turning towards IoT. They're trying to see how they can have built-in speakers that can be connected from your smartphone. There could be appliances, whether it is a fridge or microwave or toasters, anything that you have in your home as an appliance. How can you control it? And typically from your mobile home, because they know that everybody uses a mobile phone or a smartphone. So in fact, Samsung has got a big initiative called Smart Things. Please go check them out. So Samsung is a huge consumer brand like LG. So what they do is any appliance that they come out with, they try to connect them together. Whether it's a washing machine or a refrigerator or an air conditioner or a mixer, doesn't matter what they sell to the consumer as an appliance. They try to connect them together. So with a single app, they have defined those interfaces, and they encourage developers, smartphone developers, to go put those apps inside your phone. So big initiative there. And of course, the mobile operator companies are also interested in getting into that space. So home IoT is huge. So some of them might look like very luxury, but why do I need all this stuff? But a lot of people ask the question about electricity several years ago. So soon, 10 years from now, you may not be able to live without some of these Internet of Things at home. So, but that's where the consumer home IoT is. But that's not the primary driving force. The primary driving force for Internet of Things is industrial, because that's where the money is, and this is where the companies like factories and power plants, large apartment buildings, campuses like I talked about, fire service department, the government agencies, nuclear plants, so many examples of enterprises and companies. They want to enable IoT. They want to put sensors everywhere. They want to monitor them. They want to manage them. They want to control them. And a lot of the times, because of the pandemic, the personnel may not be available to go in person, right? So some of those things can also be handled remotely, right? The remote workers of the enterprise, if they want access to certain equipment in the factory, they will be able to do that. And so a lot of examples of industrial IoT. And like I mentioned, the company that I work for, Ecrio, we have many projects in this space where we combine the 5G and IoT, industrial IoT. And if you're interested, we can talk more about potential opportunities for you to do some intern projects where you could build some cool stuff for us. We can give you a gateway and some software that goes with it. You can choose your sensor, and then you can start building your own projects. So again, the key thing about IoT is it's an ideal area for cross collaboration. I think, as Madam pointed out, interdisciplinary is going to be the future, and cross collaboration, among scientists and engineers. So even among your own colleges, right, your own campus, you could collaborate with somebody from mechanical engineering. He could collaborate somebody with electrical engineering and come up with this cool projects where you design the sensors and then they can build the circuit, and then a computer science student can write the program. I mean, this is how the innovation happens in the institution. So with cross collaboration, there then new things happen, right? This is how this is typically how it happens in a company. Let's say you go to a large manufacturing company like 3M or something like that. They will have scientists who build the basic stuff using the materials and come up with hardware. Then electrical engineers who will put them together. They give power to those devices. The electronics engineers will build the circuitry, and then comes the computer engineer who will say, no, I need to program this. So they write software. So what has happened in the last 5 years or so? What used to be an IT, right? A lot of people were writing programs. If you write programs, you'll get a job and things like that. That is still true. But more and more, the IoT has opened up a new space for non-programmers, right? I mean, you don't have to be a computer science programmer to make an impact in this upcoming field. So this is what has happened, for scientists and engineers to come in and innovate more things, new things, and programming becomes one aspect of what it is, not the only thing. And so I think if you want to get into research or get into companies, I would not I would encourage you to take a look at this space, because this is a lot of opportunity there. Okay, so that's about IoT, what it is, and what are the two broad categories, and where things are right now. Okay, why do we need IoT, right? So a lot of times people ask, it depends on which category of people you're talking to. If you talk to consumer, as I talked about, our homes are now filled with more and more electronics, right? The fitness devices, you have smartwatches, so technology is everywhere, and connecting them, using them, controlling them, managing them is more and more important. So homes are getting, as I mentioned, more and more electronic devices, including toasters and so on. They are becoming standard devices at home these days, right? No longer, washing machine is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity in some places, and likewise refrigerator and things like that. And a lot of them are getting more and more advanced communication technologies enabled, whether it is Wi-Fi enabled. Some of them are cellular enabled, that you can control them from your phone directly without having to have a Wi-Fi connection at home. So lots of interesting things are happening, and the consumers want it, right? So the next generation, your generation, and the future generation will be looking for more and more automation at home, so they can spend more time on useful things rather than on mundane mechanical and manual things that people do at home. So those are some examples. Connecting these devices that we use every day can not only save time but also money, right? Because your time is money. Let's say when you work for a company, these days people are working from home. Company is paying you for the time you're putting in, and if you're spending more time in doing things at home, then that is loss of money for the company. So if there are a lot of the devices that are already connected and you can get things done much faster, then you'll spend more time on your work. So I think many companies are also interested in accommodating their workforce into connected homes, the so-called the connected homes or smart homes. So that's the reason why consumer IoT is an important one. Industrial IoT, like I said, industry 4.0 is a hot topic. There are so many aspects to it. The all the IT companies are getting into it. A lot of the things that we do in all of our enterprises, whether it is a finance company or a grocery shop or a mall or any company that is doing business these days, they need to become digital, right? So that is becoming a requirement these days. You cannot have all of the stuff on paper and pencil. You cannot have books only in paper. You need to have them electronic fashion. You need to have bank account. You should have this. You should have that. So the industry is changing, and that revolution is already happening, and IoT is definitely going to be part of that revolution. And like I mentioned, factory automation can save in time and money. And a lot of the times, the companies are measured upon in terms of how good your factory automation is, whether you're a motorbike manufacturing company, or a rubber manufacturing company, anything that manufactures something, or a textile industry, you're making clothes. So how good is your processes? How are you making sure that there are no defects? You cannot eliminate human labor, but how do you make sure that a combination of human labor plus automation can coexist and still give you the best productivity for your factory? So it is becoming essential for businesses. It's no longer that it's a nice to have. And then mission critical services like emergency use. Let's say there is a flooding, or there is a earthquake, there is a tsunami, and so many natural disasters are happening all over the world. You cannot prevent them. Sometimes you cannot even predict them. So you can only be reactive, right? When you reactive, your mission critical services are going to be very, very essential, right? Whether you're a policeman or an ambulance person, fire service person, everybody needs the connectivity. They should be able to talk to each other very quickly, and they should be able to control things. For example, there is, let's say, there is a natural, there's a problem in a large building. You want to be able to shut down the power. You want to be able to shut down the water to that large, let's say, 50-story building. How are you going to do that? You just don't have the time for a human person to go there and physically do a lot of this stuff, because every minute is you may be saving some life. So mission critical services are clearly an example of an industrial IoT, and I'm seeing many organizations. The interesting thing is a lot of them are local, right? It doesn't have to be driven by government. Maybe the police department in a city can take care of their own needs by themselves. They don't need to have a lot of connectivity with the rest of the world. So that's an interesting thing about IoT. You don't need to have a nationwide strategy. You can have a local strategy, and we have seen that many campuses, college campuses, they are getting into that. Fire service and ambulance services are getting into that as well. So ability to monitor whatever you're trying to do and control it. So two key characteristics of IoT is monitor and control. So that is important. And like I mentioned, the industrial IoT, this is IoT is the primary driving force for the IoT solution today. So we have a number of projects in this space where one could play a role in controlling them and managing them. Okay, so this hope gives you an idea of why do we need to take a look at this particular field called IoT. Here are some pictures. I think so far I've been showing you a lot of text, so I thought I'll throw in some pictures. Pictures are definitely a lot better to explain. So here is one of them. There are many examples. So for example, in this case, agriculture is a classic example of application of Internet of Things. The humidity, the moisture level, the crop growth, a lot of these parameters in the field can be gathered through sensors. Plenty of projects on this space. I mean, India being the leading country in agriculture, this is an area that I anticipate a lot of growth in the coming years. The agriculture is going to go through some modernization, and of course the traditional way of planting and things like that will continue, but the technology is going to aid them to make sure that the plants, the crops is not wasted. The productivity is going to be good, so they can predict ahead of time, right? Let's say there is a water line that goes to your plant, to your plant, paddy field, that some of them are not functioning properly. You don't want to have somebody to go over and take a look at them, and you would have wasted a lot of time and water. And how do you prevent such problems in the field? There are examples of IoT projects that you can do in that space. So this is huge for a country like us. Like I mentioned, office buildings, multi-story buildings where you have many cubicles and offices. There are so many equipment in there. How do you control them? How do you monitor them? That is another example. I think we talked about the car use case. I think Luhan talked about the vehicle to vehicle. I think that's an example of the automobile industry is now filled with Internet of Things, including connectivity to the cellular. So you'll be able to directly talk to somebody on the internet. It can talk to your mobile. It can talk to your home. A lot of things can happen in the car. So this is another. So if you are looking at a car manufacturing company, whether it's Hyundai or Maruti or any of these companies, they're heavily investing on Internet of Things, especially on the sensor technology. So this is one example. Animals, you want to tag them, you want to count them, you want to track them. Let's say if you have a large cow farm, you want to make sure that it is properly managed. Then this is another example where you can tag them with the little sensors where you can track their movement and GPS and stuff like that. So this is one other area. Hospital, another huge potential. Plenty of equipment in an hospital, right? You have hospital beds, you have several equipment, the BP or many gadgets that are measuring each patients, and how do you manage them, how do you control them, how do you get an alert that a particular patient vital signs are not the best, and you need some attention right away. So how do you alert the nurse right away? So lots of examples for sensor technology within the hospitals. So any new hospital that people are building these days, they are seriously considering IoT, because they believe that if you start with that from day one, then your the functionality of the hospital can be further enhanced, and it's not an afterthought, and you can possibly cut down the cost, right? A lot of the times the cost in identifying a problem and correcting them, there is a downtime, certain wards may not be available for patients, so things like that can be prevented. So preventive maintenance is all possible through IoT. So this is a huge area as well. Smart cities, I talked about briefly. I mean, examples are connected street lights, right? Street lights can talk to each other, and then they can determine the traffic conditions through cameras, and then they can and then depending upon the traffic condition, they can dim down the lights, right? Think about the energy that street lights can save. Let's say if you have a street name that is printed, and then you have lots of bulbs that are lighting up inside the street name, then if there are not too many cars on the street, why do you need to use all the lights, right? So there are intelligent ways of sensing how much traffic is there on the street, and then depending upon that, your street lights can be adjusted for their intensity. So lots of use cases there. Likewise, traffic signals, monitoring them and making sure that they behave in a smart way. For example, if they, let's say there is a traffic signal with four intersections, and on one side there are more traffic, the other side is less traffic, then you can adjust the timing accordingly. And these days there are technologies that do that, but they're not coordinated well, right? So a city planner can do a much better job in connecting them together, and garbage disposals, you name it, right? Everywhere, the entire city management can be enhanced with sensors, and then controlling them and managing them. So huge initiative in big cities in India. So you will be able to find in Chennai and other cities as well, in terms of what the government is doing, what the private companies are trying to do to make sure that we all can live in a safe and secured city. Airplane, there's no, I don't need to tell you, it is filled with gadgets, right? So many instruments, so many things have to work in perfect condition. So plenty of sensors in there, and then how do you make sure that you monitor them, you manage them, you control them? So a lot of automation in the airline industry. So that's one thing. So this is laptop and computer is how we get all the control and management and everything. So this is one example of how people view where Internet of Things can play a role. Here is another example where it is industrial IoT. I think some of them could be overlapping. Medical devices, like I mentioned, today we have at home medical devices. Like we have blood pressure, glucose meters, temperature thermometers, and lots of things, oxygen meters. So many devices, medical devices, are available today that you can go purchase from your local medical store, but they're not connected, right? They're all electronic devices, but they don't communicate. But that will change over a period of time. If you bring in the IoT, then you should be able to, let's say if you have an elderly at home, so that elderly person is taking a BP or taking a temperature or oxygen, you'll get a notification on your mobile phone saying that this person is running high on blood pressure. So somebody needs to take care of that. So plenty of examples for elderly care, child care, even same thing, right? Infant sleeping in a crib, and suddenly the temperature is going up on the infant. Temperature sensor can detect that, so you don't have to wait for the parent to wake up and then find out whether the infant is running temperature or not. So plenty of examples where medical devices can be automated, and it can save lives. I think this is a very important field. I think we talked about them. Sensors is fine. Agriculture, drones, we did not touch upon. Again, that's another example of drone-based agriculture where it can spread um, the seeds, or they can monitor the field. Plenty of examples for IoT there. Smart traffic, I think we touched upon that. Yeah, cost reduction is an important element of an IoT. Everything that I mentioned in these use cases, they either save time or money. In some cases, energy savings is also an important one. Smart grid, I think we covered upon it. The wind farms, windmill, industrial devices, they're all today not connected, right? They all can function independently, but they are not being connected yet. Smart factory, smart home. I think if you take a look at that, the opportunity for industrial IoT is huge, and still there are many problems that are unsolved, that people are not even attempted to find out how to solve them. So as future scientists and hopefully engineers will take a look at them and then try to solve them for us. So that gives you an idea of the IoT and how the sensors and the sensors, as you can imagine by now, the sensor come in different shapes and forms, right? I think thanks to Shubhashi madam who picked this topic, where there's definitely no shortage of information. There's plenty of information, plenty of documentation available. So we'll cover some of them in the future sessions, but hopefully it'll give you some side of what information needs to be sensed, what needs to be sensed, and then how what needs to be communicated, right? These are two important things that we will cover in our course. How do we sense it? How do we communicate to, because sensing is important. There's no point in keeping it within the device. It needs to be communicated. And what are the technologies available for us to communicate to external world? So that's these are the two pictures. Like I mentioned, if you go on the internet, you will see lots and lots of information on IoT. Some of them I've tried to cover. I think even the vehicle communication I did not include, but you will find many more such examples on the internet. Okay, now the question is, okay, now we have learned about IoT. We know we need it in the home. We need it in the world. What can I do as a student in undergrad in physics, or masters in physics, or even engineering? It doesn't matter. What can I do, right? Good news is, like I mentioned, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of science projects using IoT. All you need to do is to go look for it. Okay, and there are, in fact, I've known a few students out here in US where they do a weekend project. Like they start on a Friday, take a science project completed by Monday, right? So it is there are projects like this where you don't need to spend months and months and months in development. A lot of these sensors are available. You just order them, you get them next day. You put them together, you program them, you connect them to your mobile phone. Wow, you have your project up and running. So it is really possible to have many of these cool mini projects that you can do, and that will improve your knowledge, It will widen up your exposure to a lot of these areas. Plus, let's say if you're applying for a job, it'll be great to have in your resume, right? Imagine that you say that I have done 20 applied physics based projects, and here they are, and I've built them, I've tried them, whether it's alone or with someone from your college or anybody else. If you show them, then the companies would be more than happy to take you, because you have hands-on working experience on these activities. So don't be shy of asking, and just go find out. And if you need any help, please do let me know. Plenty of science projects are available using IoT, and you can do them at your home, right? I think, like I mentioned, in fact, interestingly, while I was in Chennai last month, somebody asked me a question. In a typical apartment complex, I see this a lot. You have a water tank on top of the building, and somebody in charge will go turn on the water pump, and then the water fills up the tank, and then the water, there is a little bit of an outlet that gets the excess water out, and somebody looks at that and says, oh, now I need to go turn off my motor, right? So somebody needs to turn on the motor, somebody needs to look for when the water overflows, and then you go turn it off. Of course, there are sensors available these days. Some of the modern apartments have it, but many older apartments still do not have that. So if you live in one of those, this could be a great project, right? You can monitor and control water pumps in your home. So there are sensors that determine the water level in the tank. So once you know that the water has reached a particular level in the tank, then you need to turn on, right? You need to have a switch to turn off the motor, and you may need to write a mobile app to combine the above two to complete the solution. So if you have done some programming in the mobile phone, you can use that, or you can collaborate with a computer science and engineering student, or a professional. They can write the app for you. That's fine. But you can do all of this by yourself or collaborate with fellow students. So idea is to solve a real problem. I think I've seen a few apartments where the water leak, or the excess water every day, right, or every other day, it spoils the floor. It corrodes the whole place, and you wasted water, you wasted money, you wasted time, and electricity. So there are plenty of such simple projects, and then the solutions are available today. Of course, you can always go to a company that will come and do it for you, but as a scientist and an engineer, you could do it by yourself. These are things that you can do it. This is one example I thought I would throw it in. And air quality in your campus, right? So this is another example of a sensor. We'll talk about the actual sensors tomorrow, where you have a temperature sensor, pressure sensor, and an air quality sensor. You can get one of these air quality sensors. They're very cheap. They're not that expensive. You can get them on Amazon. Get an associate circuitry. Then you can put it in your campus, in your lab, and then you can start monitoring air quality. You can write an app to tell your friends and family that today air quality is good or bad or moderate, like the wind that you see on the weather station. So these are things that no longer available only to professionals, no longer available only to companies. It is available to all of us. So it's a question of getting to know where they are, how to use them, and collaborate. If you want to do it all by yourself, that's fine. But if you need to put together a team and then do it by yourself, please do that. That'll give you a better sense of what you can do in IoT. Like I mentioned, I just threw in only a few examples. There are lots and lots and lots of examples available for you to take a look at. Opportunities for institutions. So, case in point, I think Madam talked about our engagement in the last 2+ years. We are creating an IoT Excellence Center that brings all the disciplines, physics and electronics for sensors and hardware. I mean, you play the major role in identifying the sensors. And if you want to build a sensor for your own, you can do that too with raw material. There are companies in India who can also help you to do that. And then electronic students can take care of the hardware. And then computer science and engineering students can do the software. And of course, we have now AI and data science for data analytics in the cloud or the edge. So basically, the idea is to bring together brains of all the disciplines and students who are interested and willing to learn and do things right. This is what we are planning to do. So students can create several prototypes and solve real life problems, right? I think end of the day, as you get into either PhD or into industry, it's all about solving real life problems, right? I think with the fast growing technology, what can you do? So if you create smaller prototypes in your school, in your college, then it'll be very attractive to companies, right? They will see the interest in your learning to do things on your own, and then you've done things and shown it to them. So those are all great things that you can do. So in the institution, and I would say participate in the ecosystem, right? So this ecosystem consists of scientists. It's like I said, it starts with you. It starts with you and then goes into engineers, then entrepreneurs who look at. So the scientists who are the ones who build things, engineers are the ones who make things work, and entrepreneurs will say, okay, now I need to sell it, right? How do I make money? So that's what the entrepreneurs will do, and then the public sector and government agencies will say, and how do I help the community? Then now that you have solved a problem, you've designed it, you've implemented it, and how do I solve the problem in the public sector and government agencies? So this ecosystem is building over IoT. So you can definitely participate in the ecosystem. So I would say innovate and share the knowledge to the community. So this is another way. For example, let's say if you want to get into PhD into the academics, this will be a great way also, right? You let's say if you've done lots of these prototypes, you'll be able to better educate your students in terms of what these projects mean, and then they can learn from that, and then they can do even better things than what you do. And this is what we believe in, sharing the knowledge to the community and make things better as we move forward. Okay, so I think that is it on the IoT. Let me park here in this picture. Maybe some other questions can be answered here, but basically the purpose of this session is to introduce you to IoT, the use cases, and then slowly give you the background for the sensors, and then the future classes will talk about sensors, and we'll have one more session on 5G communication, because sensors and communication are the two key words that we will be using quite heavily in this course. We touched a lot about IoT today, and then communication tomorrow, and then we'll get into the actual sensors themselves. So with that, let me pause here and see if there are any questions from anybody. Let me stop sharing. Maybe. Okay. Any further questions on IoT and the use cases and what we have covered, whether it's consumer IoT or industrial IoT? What is it? Why is it needed? And how does sensors play a role? As usual, you can put it in the chat window, or you can unmute and talk as well. Either one is fine with me. By the way, I will also share some of these references in the presentation. So when I share it with Madam, you can also go through some of those links on the internet. But these days, you can easily find them on the internet as well. But I will just certainly put out whatever I've collected. I'll keep it in the presentation. Questions, comments, feedback?
So this is Muthu Dhanalakshmi.
Yes, madam.
So thank you so much for this wonderful session. It was a eye-opener session for all the students, and we are ready to learn more about and interesting about applied physics and wide uses you have explained in various fields and amazing in agriculture. And is it expensive, sir? IoT is expensive for the common people. Why the government or other, there is no, it's currently it's booming, I think.
Yes.
So what about the common people? How they can relate to this IoT?
Yeah, very good question, madam. I think the agriculture is a classic example where the government can subsidize a lot of these devices to farmers. So they can even give it to them for free of cost, because government can benefit from a good crop production. So in each one of these cases, of course, there is cost involved in building the device and putting up the system, but then the benefits definitely overweigh the cost. So in many cases, the common man or woman is going to be benefited from what the government can do. And then in some cases, the enterprises, like the emergency case, like I talked about, the fire service, the ambulance service, connecting them all together, it is all going to help the community at large. And those costs are going to be borne by the government or the hospitals. So in each one of these cases, madam, in the vertical markets, the cost is going to be not passed on to the consumer. Because the consumer may not even know that there is an IoT that is helping them, but they view that as a service, or a value added service that the government or the private sector provides to them. So what the companies that, at least the company that I am working with, what we are hearing is the companies believe that by investing in IoT and coming up with these solutions, they can serve the market better, so they are ready to handle the cost. And you are absolutely right. The cost cannot be passed on to the consumers. Consumers will not be able to pay for a lot of this IoT costs. So it will be either shared by the private sector, or the agencies that are providing the service, or the government that is providing the service. Unless you're doing consumer
Great.
IoT, yeah. Unless you're doing a consumer IoT, madam. Let's say if you're controlling things at your home on your own, then you may need to invest. Even that, what I'm hearing is the builders, they are making it part of their building process, so it comes with it. So just like how you buy a mobile phone, everything comes with it. When you buy a home, the IoT is part of that, and so that's one more way that it is not passed on to you as an additional cost. But great question, madam. I think cost is something that one needs to be mindful of, and
Yes, sir.
that's what we are here.
And can you please guide the students about few projects, like examples you can share any videos are related to the IoT for students?
Sure. Yeah, I think I gave some of them. I think the water level is one. I think one classic, one simple project I can think of is the air quality control. Right, you can get an air quality sensor. You can connect it to your smartphone. You can do projects like that. So that's one project. I'll send you a list of projects, madam. I think towards the end I have a segment where I will list down all the simple projects that you can do in your
Thank
college.
thank you.
Sure. I mean, a lot of them, you can take a look at the sensors. Once we go through the sensors, I think the fourth or fifth session, you will get an idea of the type of sensors, and they're very, very less expensive. For 50 rupees, 100 rupees, you can get good sensors, and then you invest some time in it, and put them together. So there are very simple projects one can do, and then depending upon the sensor, your project could be different. And so each one of the student can take a different sensor, and try to do some of these projects. Yeah, I will definitely add some projects at the end. Thank you, madam, for that great question and feedback. Many other questions, feedback, comments? This is not the only forum, so we'll meet again tomorrow. So if you have any questions, you can always bring it to that session tomorrow. That's also fine. Or you can send it to madam, and then I can get it from madam as well. Okay, if there are no questions, madam, do you think we can wrap up?
So you can guide the students, those who want to do in the research field, sir.
Sure, I think
Some
definitely.
tips. Yeah, some tips.
Yeah, definitely, madam. I think on the research field, getting better sensor technology, right? How do you sense things better? How do you sense things faster? So I'll share some of the journals and articles and the areas where people are doing research on sensor technology, and so that could be some tips that I will share towards the end, madam. I think I have a session dedicated for research for, in this field. So during that
Okay.
session, I will share some recent activities in the sensor design, sensor implementation, and the sensor calibration. There's so many problems that can be solved. I mean, the sensors are different shapes and forms, and they have different characteristics. How do you do them? How do you do them better? How do you do them faster? Then how do you combine them with communication and things like that? So yeah, I will share. I think there is a session dedicated for
Hello, sir.
yes, madam.
Yeah, yeah. So I think you've completed, right, sir?
Yes, madam. We just wrapped up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just a minute, sir. I'll post the attendance link
Sure.
for the students. Yeah. Then we can wind up today's
Oh.
session, sir. Students, I'm posting the attendance link in the chat box. Please fill the attendance. Please fill the attendance. As I told you, every day attendance is mandatory for getting the certificate. And remember, today's session, many of you have left, I think. Those who are not posting, they won't get today's attendance. It won't be circulated in the. I've taken screenshots. Please don't misuse. Do not send to your friends. I've taken screenshots. I will remove. Do not take copy and put it in your to your friends. Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, hello.
Thank you, madam. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We will do the next session tomorrow, sir.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Regarding the next week, I think the first year students, they have got their university exam, sir.
Okay.
So I will just confirm the timings and I'll let you know, sir.
No problem, madam.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Absolutely fine, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for attending. Please fill your attendance and then you can leave.
Ma'am, attendance link is asking for permission, ma'am.
You need permission.
Asking for permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I have given, one second, let me change. Now you check. Is it opening?
Yes, ma'am. Now it is opening.
Yeah,
ma'am.
okay, okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, madam.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you, sir.
See you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we'll meet tomorrow. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Bye now.
Sir, the same link, right, tomorrow?
Yeah, same link, madam. Yes.
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Bye.
Thank you, students. We'll meet tomorrow.
Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye.